as part of International Women's Day celebrations, we're going to be talking to some inspiring women that are creating change through social entrepreneurship. We're really privileged today to be speaking to Mitos Urgel, who is the CEO and president of We Foundation in Thailand on the Thai-Myanmar border. Mitos is also the president of the World Fair Trade Organization Asia, which represents fair trade artisan groups in 19 different countries. So Mitos, thank you so much for taking time out of your really busy schedule to talk to Fair Space. I'm really excited to hear more about your work. And I was just wondering if you could just start by telling us a little bit about We Foundation and about what attracted you to its mission.
Thank you for inviting me. The Weave Foundation, or otherwise known as Women's Education for Advancement and Empowerment, is a refugee-powered women organization, and which creates enabling spaces for the refugee community, in particular women, to access safe and fair employment opportunities, to practices that are environmentally and socially just, equitable, and sustainable. And we have been doing this for more than 30 years now. And as you know, usually when refugees are displaced, they lose their roots, their culture and heritage, and often face alienation when they arrive in a new environment. So for WEAVE, it is of paramount importance to enable women refugees to reconnect to their culture and natural way of living. The ability of refugee women artisans to generate safe and fair income for themselves as well as for their community results to self-worth and dignity. What draws me actually in the work of WEAVE is because it allows me, it gives me the space to contribute in the empowerment of women, which is very close to my heart.
And you've been doing it for almost 2 decades now, is that correct? 20 years?
Yeah, I came to the border around 1999 as a volunteer. You know, I was invited to be a volunteer for 3 months. I said, okay, only 3 months. But my 3 months becomes times 3, becomes 3 years, and then I'm still here. And I think because it became part of my personal journey. I guess it was part of my trying to figure out my place in this world. And then when I arrived in the refugee camp, I felt I want to do a lot, you know. But in so doing, I didn't realize that I am the one that learned a lot from the experience, actually. Such a meaningful experience in the midst of poverty. I think that's why I'm still here.
And for those of us that don't know a huge amount about the history of the refugee camps on the Thai-Myanmar border, can you just tell us a bit about that history and how long they've been there and how long some of the women that you work with have actually lived there?
The war in Myanmar has been happening for more than 30 years now. I think Myanmar is the longest running war around the world. The refugee camp on the Thai-Myanmar border came about when an influx of refugees arrived in the 90s. And during the time when there was no established refugee camp yet, WEAVE was founded. And actually, as a matter of fact, the founder of WEAVE, she's in Australia, Mati Patel. They came together with the indigenous women and decided that they need to provide support for the needs of women and children. And that's why the acronym of WEAVE, Women's Education for Advancement and Empowerment, stands for the need to provide support in the area of education, education in the area of health, children's education, and as well as in terms of education around income generation. Because during those times, and even up to now, poverty has been identified, lack of education, and children and women's health have been identified as key areas that needs to be addressed. We don't associate, we don't see ourselves as a humanitarian organization. We are a developmental organization, but we try to address areas of concern to identify rights-based issues, including the right for survival for the refugees, the right to protection, the right to participation, education, and to the economic rights as well. So our work is evolved. The trust and direction of Weave's work since we were founded is geared towards that. And we believe that by empowering women, it will allow them to empower their communities as well, because we hope that I think even the founders of Weave didn't realize that the refugee confinement will last this long. Maybe when they decided that they will come together to provide immediate support, they thought maybe it will be, a few months. But we are here for over 30 years already. So we really hope that one day when it is more suitable for the refugees to go back to Myanmar, if that is their decision, or if they wish to resettle abroad, that they have the capacity, that they are empowered enough to stand for themselves. And for us, that is the most ultimate goal, that we are able to assist women in their own empowerment, to find their voice and to stand for themselves wherever they are.
And what kind of products do the women make? Can you tell us a bit about the products that they're making?
As you can see in my background, they are our master weavers. The children of these women, they call their mothers their queen. Because, for example, on the right-hand side, her name is Mosome. When she introduced herself, she would always say that, I have 5 men in my life, because she got 1 husband and 4 children, all boys. Mosome's husband, because they have been fighting for their own self-determination. So Mosome's husband joined the resistance group to fight for their country. And so Mosome became the breadwinner of the family, and she need to provide for her children, provide education. And she already have a son who graduated from college, and they are helping her. But through her handicraft, through her weaving, they use their own traditional skill, weaving different handicrafts. So what Weave does is use their traditional design, the patterns, and then we co-create it with new colors. So for example, what I am showing to you, this is a scarf. Sorry, it's not, I think, not very clear. This is actually the design of Mime. What you are seeing in the screen, she is Mime, and she is our master weaver. So she create her own design, and she work with the community. So while they are refugees, and they, mind you, Antonia, they haven't been to school, and they don't know how to read and write. But the kind of skills that they have is such impressive, And also both Some and Mime, they are actually generating wealth in the community, because they make their own judgment who amongst the women in the community, and usually they are the poorest of the poor, needs to be recruited, to be trained, and to be provided with, with work in making like scarves like this. As you can see, the quality of the craftswomanship is really great, and they're so particular also in terms of the quality of the handicrafts. Any woman, when they start joining the artisan group, when they are weaving, sometimes Mime and Some would point out to us that the fabric is so hard, and we keep on asking, why is it that it's hard? And so the explanation also comes from them, that because these women, when they are subjected to different forms of violence, there's so much anger in their heart, so that it actually manifests in the weaving, either shawl or scarf or whatever fabric. Because imagine your heart and your mind is full of hatred or anger or stresses. So when they are weaving, so they are angry, that also the quality of their product is affected. However, as they continue to weave, they start to gain focus, they are able to collect themselves. And one day we just find that the fabrics become soft. So we feel that the weaving also have a power. It has a healing power. because while women are having some domestic issues, when they have experienced gender-based sexual and gender-based violence, when they are weaving, they are able to process their thoughts and feelings, and they create the beautiful patterns of their lives into these beautiful fabrics. And for them, that is just the way for them to be with themselves, actually. And so that's why the fabrics or the weaving products that Weave is creating goes beyond the beautiful designs that they are creating or the beautiful products that they are making, but it is really about weaving the beautiful patterns of their lives into these pieces. And for us, that is very meaningful and also very powerful. Then there are also other women who make products such as this. We call them the songbird. Yeah, so the fabric is woven by the Karenni refugees. This is for Christmas ornament. This is part of our partnership with Made 51, the project under the UN Agency for Refugees. And so it is packaged like in a box, and then we have the bird inside. So we have this kind of product. So it's for Christmas ornaments. So yeah, those are among the products that we are using. So usually we work in partnership. Our business model is not just to support the refugees. Our model also incorporate the poorest surrounding host community or those poor villages in Thailand, very close to the refugee camp. They share almost the same language, they share almost the same culture and religion, and as well as their living situation. Because even if they're in the Thai villages, but they're also very poor. The only difference is that the refugees are unable to leave from the camp or to get the colors, the natural colors of the earth. So the women, the Thai women, they collect different colors from the tree barks, or they have access to farmlands and then they can plant colors. They would do the natural dye, which is, it's all organic, the natural dye thread. And then this thread are being brought into the camp, wherein the refugee women, they do the weaving. So there is a complementary support for each other. So that is how we actually work in the process.
Mitos, I wanted to ask you, you're obviously the president of the World Fair Trade Organization in Asia. And as we're coming into International Women's Day, can you just tell us a little bit about the fair trade system and how it ensures that women are equally represented in organizations that are fair trade?
Well, maybe I would like to start my response with, do you know that fair trade as a business model and a system challenges the existing gender gap? And while it is enabling women, particularly the marginalized and vulnerable, to make a difference in the way things are done. So to ensure that women are equally represented, WFTO promotes girls and women's in various ways. And this includes setting standards to ensure non-discrimination. The fair trade system and the standards are intended to prevent gender inequality, as well as increase participation and empowerment of women. And it is particularly enshrined in the 10 principles of fair trade, wherein principle number 6 states no discrimination, promotes gender equity and freedom of association. So the WFTO standards also require democratic decision-making processes that support women to have a real say in the governance of their communities and workplaces. The fair trade movement also promote and train women to take leadership role at all levels. So this is really highly encouraged, particularly strengthening fair trade producers organizations and the fair trade enterprises. So we develop policies such as that women and men workers receive equal opportunities and benefits. So I think those are some of the areas. There are still a lot of areas actually that fair trade is doing in order to ensure that women are really being represented.
Thank you so much for all that information. It's really great. So just a couple of personal questions. So driving social change in the way that you do and in the way that women leaders do in this space, it can be really challenging at times. And what kind of drives you through those difficult times, especially given, we're still going through a pandemic, which has really hit countries like Thailand incredibly hard. So kind of what drives you through those challenging times?
What drives me? Well, the extreme challenging times such as the COVID-19 pandemic has further exposed the widening gap of those who have and those who do not have. It exposed the adverse negative impact brought by the inequality in our socio-economic system. And this and among others have compelled me to continue in working because I believe that this is the time, our commitment is really tested during times of when there are challenges. And I believe that during these moments, we have bigger mission to accomplish. And that is to continue making a significant difference in the lives of those who are at the bottom of the pyramid or for the common good. So this has always been my motivation and my driving force all these years. And I think it pains me a lot to know that we have continued enduring, human suffering. We thought that okay, climate change has been there. We have been facing this. People are not paying so much close attention to it. And then COVID happened. And we have high hopes that, there will be a day that we will be able to find a cure for this. And then early last year in February, Myanmar declared war to its people. And so the military coup took over, killing a lot of unarmed civilians. And I thought that by December, maybe we will be having a new, much peaceful Christmas. But it didn't happen because many people died again. And then we have Omicron. And now we have this, the war happening in Ukraine again. So I always reflect and ask, like, when is this going to end? It feels like it's not just within the small corner of the world where WIV is operating, but this is being experienced around the world. But knowing that there are still people who are committed and willing to fight and willing to, to ensure that peace will prevail, I believe that I have so much to contribute. And I think that is the motivation behind this. But just looking at where we are operating, we were challenged because of the disruption caused by COVID. We cannot place orders to the refugee women and there is no work for them. But, the women would constantly call us almost every day. We need work. We need to do something, we need to feed our family. And for me, this is what motivates us because without them pushing us that, we have family to feed, we might not really, do something about it. So basically, I think it's the women, large percentage, I would credit it to the women that I have worked with because of their determination and their commitment to survive and to thrive is what makes me continue in the work that I'm doing.
What's so amazing about the fair trade movement globally is that, it's part of a larger network and a larger support system and ecosystem where traders and producers and, are all kind of interconnected and supporting each other, which is a powerful thing. Finally, Mitos, it's International Women's Day on March the 8th. How are you going to be spending International Women's Day this year?
I would be doing lots of things, in the Facebook, in social media, in the Zoom, and meeting some of our colleagues on the ground. So it would be good, and we have a big celebration, the She Leads the Way campaign of the World Fair Trade Organization. We are hoping to bring together all the, in Asia, for example, the more than 100 fair trade enterprises and the work of the women, yeah, and around the world. So we will be highlighting the accomplishments of these women, and as well as to call for more action in order to further promote gender equality and women's empowerment.
Mitos, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
You shared some incredibly powerful stories, and we're just so grateful for people like you that do the work that you do, and support so many women. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and have a very good commemoration and celebration of International Women's Day in your part of the world.